that?
I remember talking with you and you were saying that you went to a premiere with Big Meech moms and you knew Big Meech, before. So I wanted to get you on here, to talk about a little bit of that.
Oh yeah, man. I knew Big Meech before he had went to prison. Some of the guys that were drug dealers out here, because most people, connected across the land, they popping from California also. So I knew Ray Brown and Rodney Brown and Doc Holliday, McFadden, Rayford Edmonds, all of them, Haitian Jack that was doing all that era. So, and I stayed in Georgia when they were down there and was in prison with a few BMFs. And in fact, one of my partners, brother got killed, not Blue Da Vinci, the other one that was a Crip. He was a BMF out of LA and he got killed. His last name was Dixon. But anyway,
Oh, that's my
uh,
last name.
huh?
That's my
Yeah,
last name.
yeah. Yeah, but this my partner Michael Dixon's brother, and he was a BMF member. But I ran across this a boy that fucked with him real hard named Wavy Feet, out by way of New York and Greensboro. And me and I told him Marvin had went down there with Freeway Rick and Bootsy Badass last year. And you probably seen on TMZ me, Freeway Rick, and Boosie, where an incident happened at King George Club in Greensboro, North Carolina, and pepper spray. And all of us got pepper sprayed on the stage. So anyway, after that encounter, I get a call from Wavy Feet and say, man, I'm coming down to LA for the premiere, the season opening premiere, the last one that just opened. Uh, and he flew in. I told him Marvin, and we went out to Hollywood, met up with him, swooped him up, and did what we do. And then we ran into Mama Meech, that's his mother, his sister, I believe, named Robin, and another brother, I want to say Tony, that had been there. In fact, you had the photographs of him where I gave you the information. And Tony was there, Future was there, all the directors, the movies, and everything. And so we was talking that night, and she had told us this was even before the announcement that he was getting released to Florida, if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't seen no word on it. But if it's correct, he should be doing 6 months in the federal halfway house in Florida right now. So he should be free. But I got a long history, not so much with him personally, but in the drug game in Detroit, all over the nation when we used to be at a clique called Death to the High Rollers, where we jacking drug dealers instead of selling dope. We jacking all across the nation. So I know a little bit about that young man there.
Say you was a jacker, huh?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I never been to jail. We had to take our money. We couldn't go and do no internet and talk or gossip or sell dope or identity theft and getting this in the '70s coming up early. And then when the drug came out, here in Los Angeles, this is a jacker's town. People be
Was you ever
surprised.
around Meech when he was on doing this thing?
Yeah, I was staying in Stone Mountain, Georgia at that time, back when Meech and them was out. In fact, we was down there. This was during the time what was that boy
So you got to
uh
witness it.
hmm?
So you got to witness how Meech and them was balling and
Oh, yeah, yeah. You had we in entertainment, so I'm out there in the streets. We out there at that time. You had Outcast, you had the Goody Mob, you had during that era, you had the Goody Mob, you had Outcast, you had who else was out there messing around? I don't think Gucci, this was later on with Gucci, but we was doing fraud back then during that time, when, BMF was out. So you could see them at the clubs. And then I was in prison down there 5 years where they still had a few, active members, that were, BMF, bona fide members like Wavy Fee. Wavy Fee wasn't a drug dealer. He was more on the musical, side of the game with them, but he's official New York chapter. He's official New York chapter, uh, member by way of New York, but he stayed in Greensboro. But he's never sold dope. He didn't get indicted, never been to jail. So it's not only just that he was selling dope, he was also in the music, the entertainment. I was down there during the time when, something happened with, an incident happened with Bobby Brown, and somebody got killed. And you know, it's so corrupt down there. You got the strip clubs and all this shit. So I got a long history, in the city of Georgia. I did 5 years in the prison. And, what was my boy? Brian Nichols was my boy. He's on death row out of Fulton County. That's the same county where, Young Thug going to court at. And by the way, I think Young Thug gonna either get a plea deal or he gonna get found guilty, but he will come back on a reversal, and they will, lessen his sentence. That's what I'm gonna say on the outcome of this. Or it's been too many things to where there's too many issues that I've witnessed on the few things that I've heard, where I think a mistrial is going to be declared anyway, when it comes to that. So
Man,
no,
that's what it seems like.
I knew him personally, but I wasn't a drug dealer. I was a drug jacker, and we never robbed blacks. Never did we rob blacks. And you talking about when we making licks for 50, 70, 40 keys of dope back when it might have been 17.5 a pop. And, when you see me selling dope, that mean I don't pretty much took a something where we ain't counting money. We gonna waste some money. That's how it's been all my life. We gonna waste some money. We don't count.
Yeah. Um,
Hmm.
from seeing Big Meech do his thing, and you witness did you witness Rick Ross back in the day, Freeway Rick Ross?
Let me
What?
tell you about the drug era when it came in back in 70. Drugs always been around. Well, in fact, nobody's bigger than this young man I grew up with named Michael Jordan, who at 17 in 1974 was met a girl named, Rhonda Reese. Her daddy name was Tootie Reese, the equivalent of a Nicky Barnes. In fact, he dealt with Nicky Barnes in the early 70s. So at 17 years old, my partner had met a girl that was a kingpin daughter where the keys of cocaine were $55,000 a key. And it was a status drug, $100 per gram. And cocaine heroin was 78,000, 25 grams in a key or ounce or whatsoever. So I had been around drugs, but when you're 17, 18, that ain't what we doing. We soul train, gang banging, and pop locking at this time. And we don't know nobody, that's buying nothing like that. Then starting in 77, 78, 79, they started ether basing. That's when the blacks in the inner city start coming around. The Freeway Ricks, the Harry O's, the Flints, the Pats,
You talking
all
about
these
crack
things.
when they start cooking it?
No, this is not crack. This is before crack. Right now, they ether basing, which is the purest form of cocaine. This when it was still a status drug. Starting in 1980, 81, that's when the crack era started. And that's when the Freeway Ricks, the Harry O's, the Flints, the Pats, all the drug dealers you hear about, that's when the game was starting to come into the game.
Okay.
So when Freeway Rick, let me tell you one thing about the drug era early in the game and what the major drug dealers did do here in Los Angeles. That's different from the guys that's getting money now, not just in drugs, but rapping, acting, entertainment, and athletes. They always bought something in the community. When the beepers came out, all of them had beeper shots. When the cell phones came out looking like walkie talkies, all of them had phone shops for you. When the pagers came out, you could buy pagers. When the Daytons came out to put on the cars, they had cars. When the hotels were needing built, that is what Freeway Rick did. Now, when it came to Harry-O always had been a brilliant theatrical mind because he had a movie, a play with Denzel Washington in it way before Denzel was known called Playbill, and it was a play that was being shown and produced on King and Western back in the day. And this was right at the beginning of when they used to have street teams, where you putting the posters on the poles and all this. So the drug dealers back in that era, they always invested car lots, clothing stores, whatever it was that was for the culture, they always pull back, and it wasn't no dirty pool to where you trying to. When it came to competition, it wasn't about no hate. If he bought a Benz, goddamn me, I'm going to get me two of them.
Uh,
That's how we did it back then. You know what I'm saying? So what you seeing now in these depictions, particularly Meech come a little bit later in the game when it got fashionable and everything else. But back in the 80s, at the beginning of this game, in Los Angeles, most of the drug dealers, and there was quite a few of them, weighing a lot of money, guys driving Rolls Royces at 16 years old. But you got to remember, this is almost 21, 45, 50 years ago. So now you'll hear somebody talking about, oh, I was selling dope at 14. Well, you probably was, and your mama probably was whoring at 28 too, from being a strawberry or turned out if that's what you could do at 14. Yeah, that's what it was.
so
Because at 14, 15, 16, 17, when I was 7, you couldn't do that. But
hey,
cocaine was out. Hmm?
back in that days in them dope days, was the law enforcement heavy as it is now? You know, they coming with task forces and all type big.
Well, let's go through the era of what they did to combat crime when it comes to laws and adverse conditions that they did to create the laws. Because before the blacks got into the cocaine game, it was a status drug. You didn't go to jail for having no cocaine, no more different than when you start getting caught with 5 grams of cocaine, rock cocaine, your ass will get a life sentence. And by the way, how I met Wavy Free from BMF is through my partner who got a pardon, who got caught with 6 ounces of cocaine and got did 32 years before Trump pardoned. So the first thing that came out to combat blacks getting money was the batter ram. Remember the song Batter Ram? They were in the inner cities to combat drugs, particularly drug spots. They were using a military vehicle, a Jeep, whatever that big ass thing with the muzzle on it, with the gun, and they had a pointed thing that would tear your house down. Then they came up with asset forfeiture when they started realizing these young men and drug dealers are having a lot of money. So they say, why are we taking their property? Let's create it to where we'll create asset forfeiture, take their property, and we get half of the proceeds. So now that gave the DEA, ATF, and other agencies added incentive to crack you because now they're getting rewarded. That's when the next era started. Them started being undercover, acting like, and you started seeing Miami Vice.
Uh, yeah,
And what's the one with Al Pacino in it? The one
Scarface.
the Scarface. That's the 80s. See how I'm going in the order? So now you got Miami Vice, the fly look, the no socks, and all that going on at this time. But it was a status drug. But now they don't come with the apps that forfeit you. When you look at Miami Vice, you'll see they were using drug cars and other stuff to lure them, the jury, the fake drugs that really did happen. Then they started creating drug task force, NET, Narcotics Enforcement Team, OSS, Officers and Security System, where they doing the jackings too. And then the next era comes. Now come where they blowing dope up and they doubling it up. Now what do? They start saying because you're selling crack and it's blowed up and in a hard form and it's only being done in the inner cities because the whites still using it as a status drug during this era, they make the next law where you get a life sentence for over 5, 6 ounces or whatever of crack cocaine, and you can have a shipload of drugs, and you only get 10 years max. That was the next thing. So what they did when the drug game came out, because blacks were getting money, they started penalizing you and so forth and so forth. Then you had the dirty, crooked cops that you had to deal with, the ones that would set it up. And, to where you had it, for instance, I ain't gonna even use Reggie Wright. I'm gonna use some other ones, like the Rampart scandal. That's the scandal to where, in fact, they were also tied in with Ramirez, which was the lead cop. They were pressing the Mexican mafia. In fact, they pressed James Onis for making the movie America and Me, which they filmed in Palm Hall, which is Chino X said, which I was at. They was paying us 2 packs of cigarettes to sit on the yard while they filmed. So anyway, they got the task forces and stuff like this, and they started tightening down on it, man. And that was probably the most detrimental thing that happened to all the inner cities across America. Not drug dealing, I mean, not gang banging, not all type of other things, mental illness, financial illiteracy, homelessness. The number one thing that caused that I've seen so much damage in the long run was the drugs. Nothing's did more harm to these adverse communities across the nation than the selling of drugs, which you're witnessing now. And why you think the mafia don't let you sell drugs or go against it? Because they've known through history how it tears up a community. We're getting these fentanyls where a lot of our youths are dying over fentanyl. They dying on it because we don't control fentanyl, but the Mexican mafia do, the Aryan brotherhoods do, and what they do, they'll send the bad batches to our community at a cheap price, cheap labor, and that's what be going on. So a lot of times you don't see me on these internets because what we got going on is much more serious than talking about other people's business and things like that of that nature. We're really trying to do something to redirect our community and our youth, elders, and everybody to where we have a better quality of life, young player.
That's real
And through
talk.
my experience, as we talking right now, maybe it can shed some lights to where you don't go down the same road I did. Let's keep it popping.
That's real talk right there.
Yeah, 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 yeah.